Hi there and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Angie and I'm a chemist who loves makeup. So today we're going to be talking about 3 lawsuits against pretty well-known beauty brands. What all these have in common is either false marketing or misleading customers, things of that nature. We're going to go through what these lawsuits are claiming, and I'm going to give you my opinion as a chemist. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't understand the legal aspect of this. I'm just breaking it down for you based on my perspective as a chemist. And the first lawsuit we're going to talk about is against the No. 7 brand, which is owned by Johnson & Johnson. Plaintiff is claiming that 2 of the No. 7 line products claim to be oil-free, but actually contain oil. The first product the plaintiff points out is the eye makeup remover, and this contains tocopherol acetate, which they are defining as an oil, and the No. 7 hydroluminous water surge gel, which contains dimethicone, tocopherol acetate, and PEG-40 hydrogenated castor oil. Personally, I think people seek out products that claim to be oil-free because if you have oily skin, they may think that a product that contains oil is going to make them look greasy, or a lot of people believe that if something contains oil, it's going to clog your pores and make you break out. So typically, when I think of oils as a general term, I think of something that is non-polar, and it's going to be hydrophobic, meaning it's not going to mix with water, and would only be soluble in something that is also non-polar. But I really can only define that in terms of cosmetic formulation and not an all-encompassing definition about particular ingredients. When you are making products, typically you will have a water or an aqueous phase and an oil phase. So in the water phase, you dissolve the things that like to dissolve in water, and in the oil phase, you put things in there that like to dissolve in oil. So in this case, the plaintiff is claiming that things like tocopherol acetate and dimethicone are oils. I don't think the average consumer would define an oil as tocopherol acetate, which is vitamin E, or dimethicone, which is a silicone, as an oil. And Johnson & Johnson did respond, and they also did not agree with the plaintiff's version of an oil. And the plaintiff claims that anything that's partially soluble in oil can be defined as an oil. Things like dimethicone, tocopherol acetate. Partially dissolved is very vague. Things can be pretty much not soluble, but a little bit will dissolve. Like there's a threshold. And it seemed like there was a lot of inconsistency on the plaintiff's part how oils were defined, including based on the weight in comparison to water. Based on articles that I have seen, this particular plaintiff has sued previously multiple brands like Maybelline, L'Oreal, e.l.f. for this oil-free claim. But this particular lawsuit that is against Johnson & Johnson and No. 7 doesn't contain an injury or anything of that nature due to them marketing it as oil-free. So it's not really clear if the presence of what the plaintiff defines as an oil caused any harm or discomfort. One thing I will say about claims like oil-free is I feel like a lot of brands have set themselves up for this kind of an issue, and customers are getting more savvy. The internet is vast and people can do a lot of research, whether it be good or bad. Free from claims are especially problematic, especially when it comes to free from an entire category, such as being oil-free. Because although most reasonable people wouldn't define vitamin E or dimethicone as an oil, there could be an argument for how it is an oil unless the company puts a definition in which they define what they mean as oils. Especially, they have an ingredient that says PEG-40 hydrogenated castor oil. It has oil in the name, so I can see how that would be confusing from a customer perspective. Same kind of issue can happen with alcohol-free, silicone-free, fragrance-free, because there are fragrance type of ingredients that are just listed by name. So although I do feel like this lawsuit is a stretch, I would not mind if companies stopped using this type of free-from marketing on their products. These kind of free-from claims rely on a very generic term that's up to be defined by the customer. And I don't think I've seen any brand define what they mean by an alcohol or an oil or anything of that nature. So the next lawsuit we're looking into is against the brand Clinique, and they are being sued because allegedly they are misleading customers about the probiotic activity in a certain line of their products. The products in question are from their redness solution line. This is obviously to help reduce the redness of skin. There are 4 products. There's a cleanser, a cream, SPF 15 makeup, or a skin tint type of product, and a pressed powder. So from just first looking at the packaging, it looks like it's claiming that there are probiotics or good bacteria in this product that are gonna help reduce the redness in your skin. For a while now, there's been probiotics in dietary type of products, which is good for gut health, and this has a lot of research. Recently, the same principle has been attempted to be applied to skincare, and the research is very early in the skin microbiome and probiotics. But the idea is that you have good bacteria on the skin and you don't want to remove that good bacteria, and removal of this good bacteria can lead to skin issues. So one of the major problems with probiotics in cosmetics is that if your cosmetic product is able to contain live good bacteria, it's also going to be able to contain live bad bacteria. And you cannot allow that bad bacteria to be able to survive in your product, so you have to use a preservative in order to make sure that bad bacteria doesn't grow. I think food is a lot easier to have probiotics in them because a lot of these products are perishable. They go bad fairly quickly and you consume them fairly quickly. They get stored in a fridge, but we don't treat cosmetic products the same way. You're having that same product for 2 months, 3 months at room temperature, and if it's able to grow any sort of bacteria, it is susceptible to growing harmful bacteria. And you have to have preservatives to make sure harmful bacteria doesn't grow over the lifetime of your cosmetic product. And that's where this lawsuit comes into play. So that they're claiming, although Clinique added a probiotic ingredient, in fact, it contains phenoxyethanol, which is a broad spectrum preservative. So they're likely to kill any sort of bacteria if it's in that product. So the plaintiff is claiming even if this bacteria was to be present, it would be dead and therefore rendered ineffective. So this gets interesting for me because this kind of plays into what can a company claim. And if you didn't know, a lot of these big companies actually have teams of scientists whose sole purpose is to help back up any claims that marketing makes on the bottle. They have to find ways to prove these claims. So in the case of these products, they claim that they use probiotic technology. And that particular ingredient that's contributing to this is a lactobacillus ferment. So my background is in chemistry, but I have taken some biology classes, so hopefully I explained this correctly. Lactobacillus is considered a good ingredient. It can help break down food, and it is found in products like yogurt. When it goes through fermentation, it can create a more acidic environment, which is usually not very bacteria friendly, and it also produces peptides which have antimicrobial properties. The ingredient lactobacillus ferment is getting popular. Suppliers have data to show that it helps prevent other bacteria from growing. And what I can see, the ingredient that is added to this product is not necessarily the bacteria itself, but is the end of the fermentation process. So in my opinion, I think Clinique has a pretty good argument to sustain their claim of using probiotic technology. So when this ingredient is put into the product, the fermentation process has already occurred. Produced peptides are gonna have antimicrobial properties, whether or not there is more preservatives or not. The terminology used on the packaging as well as the description on the Ulta website, they do describe it as probiotic technology. Technically, they're not claiming it has probiotics or good bacteria in here. It is technology produced by probiotics. If you want to look into something interesting, there's a lot of developments happening with using bacteria and fermentation process to create raw materials, which would be actually a very eco-friendly way of creating raw materials because they would use a small area and you wouldn't need a lot of starting materials. So that's a side note there, check that out. And even though I think this is very interesting, we do have to remember that there's also phenoxyethanol, which is a broad spectrum preservative in here. So realistically, this lactobacillus ferment is probably just in there for marketing purposes. So these lawsuits are gonna come down to what is the average customer most likely to perceive this as. And for scientific innovations like this, I wish companies like Clinique would put out more information, whether on their website, their Instagram, to teach customers something about this because this is actually really fascinating technology to me. And lastly, we're gonna be talking talking about a lawsuit against the brand Burts and their claims of having natural products. I did make a video previously in which I discussed how I feel the term natural is misleading. I'll link that up in the cards and down below if you want to check that out. And this particular lawsuit is alleging that although the brand claims to be natural, that a lot of the ingredients are synthetic. This one is with regards to pet shampoo, so not human cosmetics, but the moral of this is still going to be the same, so we're going to talk about it. And it's probably also applicable to most of their other products, human products as well. And this one actually is claiming that there was injury to animals due to what they claim is misleading marketing. And this is where the term natural on packaging is a problem. A company can make up whatever definition they want for natural, and that's not necessarily what a customer's definition would be like. So an instance in which a company's definition of natural may conflict with a customer's definition of natural is with things like colorants. Specific colorants in the US have to be synthetic because that ingredient of natural origin, things like iron oxides, if they come from nature, they are very susceptible to a lot of lead contamination, other contaminants, and it's a lot easier when they're synthetically made to control for those contaminants. So these kind of colorants have to be synthetic to control for these impurities, but a company can still claim them to be in their product and be natural, but they are considered to be nature identical because the molecular composition is the same as what you would find in nature. Basically what this lawsuit is claiming about these pet shampoos. The claim is that cocoa betaine, although yes, it can be derived from coconut, it is probably most likely of synthetic origin. And honestly, at the end of the day, just because something is of natural origin does not mean that it is more safe, and that is a misconception I would like to break. I think brands need to stop using the word natural on their products. They make up a definition all willy-nilly in order to imply safety, when in fact, something that is natural is not necessarily safer than something that is synthetically made. And there is no legal definition of the word natural. There was a bill that was attempted to be passed to define the word natural in cosmetics, but that bill didn't make it very far. In conclusion, I feel that this shows that customers are getting more savvy. The internet is a wonderful thing with a ton of information. They are finding more information to help them realize this kind of misleading marketing, and I think brands are gonna have to adapt to that. And I hope we see less of this type of marketing, especially terms like natural and clean. And so if you learned something today, give this video a like, leave me your thoughts on these lawsuits down below, and if you wanna learn more about the science behind your makeup and skincare, make sure you click the subscribe button. And with that, I will see you in my next video. Bye!